Hello students, welcome to the lecture on workers' participation in management. And after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Explain the objectives and concepts of workers' participation in management. Discuss the evolutions of workers' participation in management. Understand the importance and conditions of workers' participation in management. Describe the scope and ways of workers' participation in management. Explain the WPM advantages. Understand the quality of work life. Describe the workers' participation in public sector banks. Explain the plant and broad level workers. Understand the objectives, features, and scenario of workers' welfare. Let's start with some introduction first. Workers' participation in management is an essential ingredient in industrial democracy. The concept of workers' participation in management is based on human relations approach to management, which brought about a new set of values to labor and management. Workers' participation is also known as labor participation or employee participation in management. Let us study about the objectives and concepts of workers' participation in management. Workers' participation in management implies mental and emotional involvement of workers in the management of enterprise. It is considered as a mechanism where workers have a say in the decision. The philosophy underlying workers' participation stresses democratic participation in decision-making, maximum employer-employee collaboration, minimum state intervention, realization of a greater measure of social justice, greater industrial efficiency, and higher level of organizational health and effectiveness. Workers' participation in management was given importance only after independence. The Joint Management Councils were established in 1950, which increased the participation of labor in management. The Management Scheme 1970 gave birth to Board of Management. Since July 1975, the two-tier participation model called Shop Council at the shop level and Joint Councils at the enterprise level were introduced. Based on the review and performance of previous schemes, a new scheme was formulated in 1983. The new scheme of workers' participation was applicable to all central public sector enterprises, except those specifically exempted. The workers' participation schemes provide wide scope for application and upliftment of workers. But in practice, these schemes have not met with success, though they are successful in some private sector units. The factors responsible for the failure are: attitude of the management towards the scheme is not encouraging. The preventatives of workers are not given due recognition by the management. The attitude of trade unions towards the schemes is negative, as they consider these schemes are reducing the power of trade unions. Some trade unions boycott Joint Management Council meetings. The success these schemes require certain conditions. Management should appreciate the scheme and accept them in full faith. Trade unions have been cooperate with the schemes. Workers have to be educated. Thus, workers' participation in management has yet to succeed. It can be done by educating the workers, creating an environment in the organization for coordination of workers and management. Objectives. The primary objective of WPM is to broaden the decision-making process of the organization by including the employees or their representatives in that process. Several other objectives are also served by participative management. Greater employee satisfaction. Participative management aims at enhancing the satisfaction of the employees by fulfilling their desire for participation in the decision-making process, especially on the matters affecting them. Greater responsibility. Making the employees accept a greater responsibility for the decisions of the organization is another objective of participative management. The aim of the organization is to improve the involvement of the employees in its affairs. The objectives of workers' participation in management are: to raise level of motivation of workers by closer involvement, to provide opportunity for expression and to provide a sense of importance to workers, to develop ties of understanding leading to better effort and harmony, to act on a device to counterbalance powers of managers, to act on a panacea for solving industrial relation problems. Concepts. The concept of WPM is a broad and complex one. Depending on the socio-political environment and cultural conditions, the scope and contents of participation change. WPM is the participation resulting from the practices which increase the scope for employees' share of influence in decision-making at different tiers of organizational hierarchy, with concomitant related assumption of responsibility. ILO. Workers' participation may broadly be taken to cover all terms of association of workers and their representatives with the decision-making process, ranging from exchange of information, consultations, decisions, and negotiations, to more institutionalized forms, such as the presence of workers' member on management or supervisory boards, or even management by workers themselves. The main implications of workers' participation in management, as summarized by ILO: workers have ideas which can be useful. Workers may work more intelligently if they are informed about the reason for and then intention of decisions that are taken in a participative atmosphere. Participation refers to the mental and emotional involvement of a person in a group situation, which encourages him to contribute to group goals and share the responsibility of achievement. It implies a situation where workers' representatives are, to some extent, involved in the process of management decision-making, but where the ultimate power is in the hands of the management. It is the mental and emotional involvement of a person in a group situation which encourages him to contribute to goals and share responsibilities in them. Let us now study about workers' participation in management evolutions. Economic decisions. It includes involvement of employees on various financial or economic aspects such as the methods of manufacturing, cost-cutting, automation, shutdown, mergers and acquisition and layoffs. Inviting ideas from employees on various issues like how to cut down the operating costs can work wonders. In economic decisions, one considers the methods of manufacturing, automation, shutdown, layoffs, and mergers. Personnel decisions. The employee's participation in personnel decision-making refers to their involvement in various management processes, including recruitment and selection, work distribution, promotions, demotions, and transfers, grievance handling, settlements, voluntary retirement schemes, and so on. Participation of employees in these processes can safeguard their interests and motivate them to work hard for the betterment of self as well as the organization. Social decisions. Social decision-making refers to employee involvement in decision-making regarding hours of work, rules and regulations at workplace, welfare measures, worker safety, employee welfare, health and sanitation. In this category, employees have a say in decisions in these areas. They may take an advantage of their liberty and sometimes can dominate the management. Here the concept of bounded or restricted participation can work well. Let us now talk about the importance and conditions of workers' participation in management. Importance. There is some importance of worker participation in management. Unique motivational power and a great psychological value. Peace and harmony between workers and management. Workers get to see how their actions would contribute to the overall growth of the company. They tend to view the decisions as their own and are more enthusiastic in their implementation. Participation makes them more responsible. They become more willing to take initiative and come out with cost-saving suggestions and growth-oriented ideas. Conditions. The success of workers' portion in management depends upon the following conditions. The attitude and outlook of the parties should be enlightened and impartial so that a free and frank exchange of thoughts and opinions could be possible. Both parties should have a genuine faith in the system and in each other, and be willing to work together. Participation should be real. The issues related to increase in production and productivity, evaluation of costs, development of personnel, and expansion of markets should also be brought under the jurisdiction of the participating bodies. Participation must work as a complementary body to help collective bargaining, which creates conditions of work and also creates legal relations. There should be a strong trade union which has learned the virtues of unit and self-reliance so that they may effectively take part in collective bargaining or participation. A peaceful atmosphere should be there wherein there are no strikes and lockouts, for their presence ruins the employees, harms the interest of the society, and puts the employees to financial losses. Let us now study the scope and ways of workers' participation in management. The scope of workers' involvement in managerial decision-making may extend to social, economic, and personnel decision-making depending upon the requirements of the organization. But there is a difference of opinion about the extent to which employees can participate in managerial decision-making process. Should they be equal partners and make joint decisions, or should workers be given opportunities through their seniors to come up with the ideas? The first school of thoughts favors the actual participation of workers, while the second school of thoughts suggests the consultation of workers in managerial decision-making. It is up to the management to decide which style it prefers and to what extent it requires involvement of employees. Employee participation in decision-making process is beneficial. However, there may be some limits on it to ensure that they do not take advantage of their liberty and right of participation. There are several ways through which employees can participate in the whole process. Some of them are financial participation, participation through collective bargaining, participation at the broad level, participation through ownership, participation through work councils and committees, and participation through suggestion schemes. One view is that workers or the trade union should, as equal partners, sit with the management and make joint managerial decisions. The other view is that workers should be only given an opportunity, through their representatives, to influence managerial decisions at various levels. In practice, the participation of workers can take place by one or all the methods as participation at the board level. This would be the highest form of industrial democracy. The workers' representative on the board can play a useful role in safeguarding the interests of workers. He or she can serve as a guide and a control element. He or she can prevail upon top management not to take measures that would be unpopular with the employees. He or she can guide the board members on matters of investment in employee benefit schemes like housing and so forth. Problems associated with this method. Focus of workers' representatives is different from the focus of the remaining members of the board. Communication and subsequently relations between the workers' representative and the workers suffers after the former assumes directorship. He or she tends to become alienated from the workers. Participation through ownership. This involves making the workers shareholders of the company by inducing them to buy equity shares. In many cases, advances and financial assistance in the form of easy repayment options are extended to enable employees to buy equity shares. Advantage. Makes the workers committed to the job and to the organization. Drawback. Effect on participation is limited because ownership and management are two different things. Participation through complete control. Workers acquire complete control of the management through elected boards. The system of self-management in Yugoslavia is based on this concept. Self-management gives complete control to workers to manage directly all aspects of industries through the representatives. Advantages. Ensures identification of the workers with their organization. Industrial disputes disappear when workers develop loyalty to their organization. Participation through staff and work councils. Staff councils or works councils are bodies on which the representation is entirely of the employees. There may be one council for the entire organization, or a hierarchy of councils. The employees of the respective sections elect the members of the councils. Such councils play a varied role. Participation through the joint councils and committees. Joint councils are bodies comprising representatives of employers and employees. This method sees a very loose form of participation, as these councils are mostly consultative bodies. Participation through collective bargaining. Through the process of CB, management and workers may reach collective agreement regarding rules for the formulation and termination of the contract of employment, as well as conditions of service in an establishment. Participation through job enlargement and job enrichment. Excessive job specialization that is seen by a byproduct of mass production in industries leads to boredom and associated problems in employees. Two methods of job designing, job enlargement, and job enrichment are seen as methods of addressing the problems. Job enlargement means expanding the job content, adding task elements horizontally. Job enrichment means adding motivators to the job to make it more rewarding. This is WPM in that it offers freedom and scope to the workers to use their judgment. Participation through suggestion schemes. Employees' views are invited and reward is given for the best suggestion. With this scheme, the employee's interest in the problems of the organization is aroused and maintained. Progressive managements increasingly use the suggestion schemes. Suggestions can come from various levels. Out of various suggestions, those accepted could provide marginal to substantial benefits to the company. The rewards given to the employees are in line with the benefits derived from the suggestions. Let us now move to the WPM advantages. Employees become involved in decision-making, acquire communication and analytical skills, and improve efficiency of the workplace. Organization gets to enjoy higher savings to cost ratios. Chances of QC members to get promotions are enhanced. Disadvantage of participation. Workers may be less informed than managers. and the premises upon which they make their decisions may be different. The rewards motivating workers to share their ideas may be larger than the value of the ideas themselves. Once becoming committed to a decision, employees may be reluctant to change it. Not everyone has strong desires for creativity and achievement, or they satisfy these sufficiently off the job. Participation is time-consuming, and if decisions are made by groups, reaction to changing environments may be particularly slow. Retraining of employees and managers can be expensive. Once a precedent of participation is established, withdrawal of the right to participate becomes difficult. Cohesive participative groups may unite against management to restrict production and prevent change. Goals workers set for themselves may be low. Let us now discuss the quality of work life. Quality of work life, QWL, is the shared responsibility not only of the management and employees, but also by the society. To improve quality of work life is first to identify and then try to satisfy employees' important needs through their experience in their working environment. Quality of work life, QWL, has been defined as the quality of relationship between the employees and the total working environment. QWL is concerned with the overall climate of work and the impact on work and people as well as on organization effectiveness. Participation improves equality. Unlike most management rationales for introducing participation, socially focused efforts center also on the democratic and equal opportunities between workers and management. Basis for participation as in, for example, cooperatives. Improves company performance. Consequent benefits for the employer spring from the assumption that workers will want to work harder and more effectively as a result of greater organizational commitment, which in turn stimulates greater work flexibility and quality of output. The employer also benefits from the opportunity to harness workers' knowledge and experience. Participation reduces company costs. There is evidence that both financial and work-related participation can deter or delay quits from the company and lower absenteeism rates. Share schemes reduce labor turnover. A decrease in labor turnover will reduce recruitment and training costs for the organization. Cost savings may result from reductions in absenteeism rates. Attitude and behavior change. A crucial assumption in the management literature is that participation can affect changes in employee attitudes and behavior, thus improving company performance. Workers' participation, teams, and performance. Teams, while not necessarily offering a high level of employee participation in organizational decision-making, are an important consideration given the often uncritically assumed link between team working and attitudinal change in favor of management organizational goals. Team working, for instance, is suggested to have a positive impact on employees, especially in improved relations, aiding conflict handling, changing employee attitudes and behaviors, and in building trust and improving communications, all of which are critical elements along the participation, perception, performance causal path. Let's discuss about workers' participation in public sector banks. While nationalizing banks, it was announced that a scheme would be formulated to provide for workers' participation in management. Accordingly, the Nationalized Banks, Management and Miscellaneous Scheme 1970 was notified by the government. The scheme provided for the appointment of a workman director and a director representing the officers cadre for each bank on the board of each nationalized banks. The Union of Workmen and the Association of Officers, which were identified as a representative union association, after verification of membership, was entitled to nominate one office bearer each on the board of directors of the bank. The social public service organizations have specific characteristics. They are characterized by high labor costs. In over 40% of these organizations, labor costs constitute over 3/4 of total costs. These organizations are confronted with different economic pressures than private firms. Very few organizations in public administration face competition, while just over half in education and health and welfare do. In addition, they employ a highly qualified labor force. Almost 2/3 of public service organizations have employees with qualifications at high or very high levels. Social public services are one of the main employers of women, and the majority of the workforce is female. The survey indicates that group forms of participation are more firmly rooted in the social public services than in the private sector. Group-based participation covers over 50% of the largest occupational group in well over half of the public service bank. For permanent group consultation, this is the case in almost 2/3 of public service bank. This compares to the private sector, where coverage extends to over half the largest occupational group in 1/3 of organizations. Let's move to plant and board level workers. Plant level workers. Plant level data on Chilean manufacturing firms for the 1980-99 period, one estimate and characterize disaggregate total factor productivity. One shows that idiosyncratic productivity shocks are a quantitatively relevant source of the observed heterogeneity in the behavior of plants. Both exit and input demand decisions are correlated with our estimates of plant-level productivity. One then used these estimates to study the microeconomic sources of aggregate growth. One decomposes productivity dynamics into production reallocation and within plant efficiency changes. Thus, the plant-level total factor productivities one estimate in this paper comprise 20 years characterized by several relevant shocks, providing a rich source of information that allows us to better understand the link between plant-level behavior and aggregate dynamics. Board-level workers. Board-level employee representation involves employees' representatives who sit on the supervisory board, board of directors, or similar structures in companies. These employee representatives are directly elected by the workforce or appointed in some other way, and may be employees of the companies, officials, or organizations representing those employees, or individuals considered to represent the employees' interests in some way. The presence of employee representatives in the board-level structures of a company is an indirect or representational form of participation. Board-level representation also differs from other types of indirect participation, such as works councils, in that it attempts to provide employee input into overall company strategic decision-making rather than focusing on information and consultation on day-to-day operational matters at the workforce. Let's now discuss the objectives, features, and scenario of workers' welfare. Labor welfare industry implies providing better work conditions such as proper lighting, heat control, cleanliness, low noise level, drinking water and toilet facilities, canteen, restrooms, and health and safety measures, reasonable hours of work and holidays, and other services such as housing, education, recreation, transportation, and counseling. Welfare includes anything that is done for the comfort and improvement of employees and is provided over and above the wages. Welfare helps in keeping the morale and motivation of the employees high so as to retain the employees for longer duration. Labor welfare has the following objectives: to provide better life and health to the workers, to make the workers happy and satisfied, to relieve workers from industrial fatigue, and to improve intellectual, cultural, and material conditions of living of the workers. The basic features of labor welfare measures are: Labor welfare includes various facilities, services, and amenities provided to workers for improving their health, efficiency, economic betterment, and social status. Welfare measures are in addition to regular wages and other economic benefits available to workers due to legal provisions and collective bargaining. Labor welfare schemes are flexible and ever-changing. New welfare measures are added to the existing ones from time to time. Welfare measures may be introduced by the employers, government, employees, or by any social or charitable agency. The purpose of labor welfare is to bring about the development of the whole personality of the workers to make a better workforce. Workers' welfare scenario. The Workers' Welfare League also aims at collecting information about labor conditions with bearings on British conditions and circulating it through the columns of papers and by means of pamphlets, leaflets, and periodical bulletins. The sending of speakers to workers' organizations to describe labor problems and conditions and how they bear on the British workers' lives. Holding periodical conferences to consider outstanding problems and occurrences so as to enable British workers to help each other effectively. Circularizing the British clergy, a large number of whom at one time professed labor sympathies and showed some interest in the welfare of the masses. Securing and sending financial and other help to workers during labor troubles. Did you know? Labor union demonstrators held at bay by soldiers during the 1912 Lawrence textile strike in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. WPM is the participation resulting from the practices which increase the scope for employees' share of influence in decision-making at different tiers of organizational hierarchy, with concomitant, related assumption of responsibility. Participation in management gives the worker a sense of importance, pride, and accomplishment. It gives him the freedom of opportunity for self-expression, a feeling of belongingness with the place of work, and a sense of workmanship and creativity. Workers' participation can encourage communication at all levels. Since both partners of production are involved in the decision-making, there will be fewer changes of distortion and/or failure in communicating the decision. Authority should be centralized through democratic management process. The participation should be at the 2 or at most 3 levels. The scope of participative style of management certainly depends on the organization, its nature, functions, and processes.